So it's August 2022. It's first week or two of college. I'm not exactly sure. But me and my homies, it was me, my dog Reem, my dog Marcus, my dog Jaden. We'd all went to high school together and we were going to college together. So we were having this smoke sesh, right? At the school's car park, right? Car park and the Skyline, they're like the two smoke spots, right? So car park was like a parking garage, parking garage, and then the Skyline was basically like a walking path where there's like some seats and stuff like that, and you could see like the New York City skyline. I went to school in New Jersey because I'm from Jersey. So Skyline, car park, those are the two smoke spots. I told you that because that was relevant information. So we're at car park, right? Me, Reem, Marcus, and Jaden. So I'm gonna call Jaden Black though, because my name is Jaden as well. So we'd always like, we'd known each other since high school, so that was like always like a thing. So whenever we were together, Jaden would go by Black because that's his nickname, right? So it was me, Reem, Black, and Marcus, right? Honestly, Marcus's nickname is Steez, so I'm gonna call him Steez. It's one syllable, so it's easier, right? Okay, cool. So we got me, Reem, Steez, and Black. But now there's this other homie of ours. Her name is Zeta. She went to NCA with us. That was our high school, right? And Zeta had some homies that she had this new class with, right, at college. And so they wanted to smoke, right? So it was like I think Zeta and 3 of her friends, right? So it's like 8 of us, right? And we're vibing, we're smoking, we're doing our thing. Now one of these friends, she is super, super fine, super bad, mommy. I ain't gonna lie. She's like 5'7", 5'8". I ain't gonna lie, I love the tall legs. I love them. She was a Latin mommy. She's Ecuadorian. She had the red hair. Can't lie, the red hair began me. Super cute, right? Super cute. Super fine. You know what I mean? Body, face. You feel me? So it's like, you know what I mean? So I was trying to spit at her. And by trying to, I mean, I wanted to, but I was just too busy in my head being a bitch. So I basically just spent the whole sesh like not saying anything to her. We interacted a little bit, and I thought I got her name, but I definitely didn't. For some reason, I thought her name was DeAndre. It was not. Her name was Andrea. Anyways, post-sesh, right, I hit up Zeta. I texted her. I was like, yo, gang, let me get your homie's number, right? She was mad fine and shit. And Zeta's like, yo, chill, she got a man. I'm like, she like him for real? You know what I mean? It's like, fuck her man, bro. Like, I want But Zeta wasn't going for it, so I'm like, all right, fuck it, charge it to the game. You know what I mean? She's got a man, we're balling out. Fast forward to October, right? So like 2 months later. Basically, like not even like going to class at this point. Yo, I told you, I kid you not, guys. I went to college for 1 year, right? And I was so fucking depressed and so lost. I literally, basically after the first 2 or 3 weeks of class, like first semester, I was only going to calculus and physics. I was a physics major. I was only going to physics and calculus because those are the only classes that I got some kind of enjoyment from. Right? So it's October. I'm basically only going to 2 classes. The rest of the time I'm like getting high, or I'm playing video games, or I'm just doing whatever the fuck, right? And my dog Reem, right? So Reem would be like the trapper, the bally man, right? Reem always had the weeds on him. So I checked Reem's location one day because I wanted to cop. And I seen that he was at Skyline, right? And I was like, ooh. Because Reem had been messing with this shawty recently. This was one of the shawties that was homies. Now, she wasn't actually there. Her name is Mehek. So Mehek and Reem was messing with each other, right? I didn't know Mehek previously, but I just knew that Reem was messing with this girl and that like he would always spark her up, right? And so since Mehek and Andrea, like they were besties type shit, they were always together. I knew that Andrea was there, and Reem had been putting me on recently, right? Reem's fucking with Mehek, so he knows that Andrea's single now, right? So he's putting me on. He's telling me like over the last few days, he's like, oh yeah, bro, Andrea don't got a man. I think you could slide on that. I think that's you, gang. I ain't gonna lie. So I'm out here getting mad hype and shit. So this day I go to see, you know, to cops with me from Reem, see where he's at. I see he's at Skyline. I'm like, say no more. I'm on timing, baby. You feel me? So I'm like, yo, it's over. So I hit Reem up. I'm like, yo, gang, I'm about to pull up so I can cop an 8th off you. He's like, say no more. And he's like, hey, you know who is here too? I'm like, I'm already knowing, gang. That's why I'm sliding through right now. You feel me? So I get over there. My dorm room is like not even 5 minutes away from Skyline. So I pull up over there, too fizzy, say what's up to Reem, chop it up with him a little bit, cop that valley. And then I go over to Andrea, right? And she was with a couple of her other friends, Stacy and Gabby. They were cool peeps. So I go over to Andrea, right? And I say what's up to her. I'm like, yeah, what's good? What's up, Andrea? Like, blah, blah, blah. I think, like, one of the first things she said, she might have said hey to me or whatever, but, like, basically, the first thing she said to me was, oh, I seen you in Bone. That was my dorm room. I seen you in Bone last week, and you didn't say nothing to me, right? And I was like, oh, shit, what you mean, mama? Like, what you talking about, right? As soon as she said that, bro, in my head, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm in, boy. What are you talking about? Right? I'm like, oh, mama's feeling me. She's feeling me. So I'm like, say no more. I got this in the bag. All I got to do is not fumble. You feel me? So I'm like, oh, shit, what you mean? I didn't even see you. Like, where you see me at type shit. And she was like, oh, you know, I saw you, like, by the elevator getting on type shit. I was there with my friends last week. I was like, oh, shit, why didn't you say nothing to me? You feel me? Like, type shit. And then she just like, looked down. She got all, like, kind of, like, shy and, like, giggly and shit. I'm like, oh. So, you feel me? Like, I was like, oh, this shit is over, right? So I'm like, I'm about to roll up. You want to smoke? And she was like, oh, I'm going to be leaving soon, but I'll smoke with you if I got time, right? So I'm like, all right, say no more. I'll be Speedy Gonzalez with it, head ass. Right? I've always been like a fast, pearly man. I'm not gonna lie. So I started breaking up my belly. You know what I mean, roll that bitch up, and she started trying to dip. Right? I didn't finish rolling up the L yet. I'm like, oh, what you doing? You trying to leave? Your fine ass ain't even hit my L yet. Nah, sit your ass back down, right? And she sat her ass back down. You feel me? Like, what are you talking about? Just finished rolling that bitch up. You know what I mean? Just pass that bitch to her. We hit that shit a little bit, chop it up a little bit. I get her number, and then she dips off. She probably smoked like, she probably hit that bitch like, she probably had like 2 rounds of it coming to her, you know what I mean? She didn't like stay for the whole L. But she dips off. I think this is like Monday or Tuesday, right? So I got her number, this is Monday or Tuesday. I forget exactly. I always forget which fucking day. I'm pretty sure this was Monday. Yes, this was Monday. So I get her number Monday. And like that day, I didn't like text her, like we didn't really talk much. And then I think I texted her, but she didn't like respond. And then on Tuesday, I think I'd seen her a little bit. I don't remember. I don't remember if I saw her in person, but I know Tuesday we started like texting a lot. We started chopping it up a lot. On Wednesday, she didn't come to campus that day, so like we was just like chopping it up a lot that day. But on Wednesday, she told me, yo, like her mom, right? So her and her mom are from Ecuador, and they moved here like maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. It was like before high school. And so it was just her mom and her dad still lives in Ecuador. So she told me that her mom would go back to Ecuador and visit her dad at times. And so she was doing this, right? Her mom was literally gone for like a week or two. And so she told me, oh yeah, my mom's in Ecuador visiting my dad, so I'm gonna be home alone for like the next week or two or some shit like that. And so she was like, I've been thinking about coming to campus and spending the night at my Hex, right? And I was like, how about you come and spend the night with me instead? And she was going for it, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh shit, wait, this shit is in the bag. Right? So on Thursday, we were chilling. She was on campus that day. She came over to my dorm, right? And we were chilling, blah, blah, playing some music. And then we were on the bed, right? And we started like making out. She's on top of me, and she starts giving me neck kisses. I'm like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, I was going for it for a bit, but I was like, hold on, you gotta chill, bro. Like, if you're not trying to get fucked right now, like, you gotta relax. Like, that was the time, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. The neck kisses, like, that shit really puts me in, like, demon mode, like, instantly, bro. Instantly, bro. So she was going for it a little bit more, but then I was like, yo, like, relax. and then she chilled off. She chilled off, right? So that was Thursday, right? Whatever. Friday, next day. This is the day she's gonna come over and like spend the night, right? So I'm like chilling with her, like I don't know. We were doing some shit. It was me, her, Zeta, and like Stacy and Gabby. I'm pretty sure all 5 of us were like doing some shit. For some reason, we went to the gas station. They wanted to like get vapes or whatever. So she asked me if I wanted to come with them. I'm like, of course, mama. Like, fuck, duh. So I get there, right? So we're there, like we're all there, right? And I'm just there, like just there. 'Cause I didn't want to buy nothing, right? I didn't need shit. And Zeta, she comes over to me and she like looks at some condoms, she points to them or whatever, and she was like, "You want to get some of those?" Right? I was like, "What I need those for?" And she was like, "Zeta, don't play with me. Like, you know what's going on tonight." I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about, bro." But I was like, "Regardless, I don't need those. I don't use those." Yo, boys, don't be like me, bro. Wrap up, okay? I didn't wrap up for like, basically, like, up until this point, I've never wrapped up, and like, I don't want to do that anymore. You should not do that, bro. That shit is not. Wear condoms, bro. Okay, okay. Like catching an STI, like that shit is not cool. You don't want to do that, right? Don't fall for the bullshit. So you know that was the timing I was on. So like, I was already knowing, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hit this. Like, if Zeta's telling me that like I'm gonna need condoms because I'm gonna hit that, I'm like, I'm already knowing like Andrea's been talking about me, whatever, blah blah blah. Like, I know what's gonna happen. You feel me? So she comes over Friday, like, or we were like chilling for that day, right? But day ends, whatever. We probably like smoked or some shit, and then we spin back to my dorm. I don't remember. But it's nighttime. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? We're into it. We got the tunes on. We got the playlist on. We're on the bed. She's on top of me. You know, we're getting into it. Things happen. You know, there's, you know, I'll say this for any of my boys here. If you're like escalating things and you know like you're gonna have sex, there's often a point of like last minute resistance, right? I forgot. Is it last? Isn't there like a term for it? I don't remember. But it's basically like the last test that a girl will kind of like throw at you to kind of make sure that like you're holding frame so like she can surrender into you. I got like, we were like, basically this was before like we like took our clothes off and like before we like really got into it. She had said something along the lines of like, because she had been telling me like she didn't want to move too fast with me, right? Because she had this ex and that was like her first everything. We're gonna talk about that later, but she told me she didn't want to move too fast because, you know, she was in like an interesting place, whatever. And I told her that I was like, honestly, like, I just want to be with you, so I don't care how fast we're moving, whatever. Sometimes some shit like that, where it was like acknowledging how she felt, but like still like commanding her, like being direct with like what I want. It's like, I'm gonna have you. You know what I mean? And like after that, she broke. And then it was amazing, right? And we had very amazing sex. It was very good. And then we cuddled and we woke up in the middle of the night and we did it again. And we woke up in the morning and we did it again. So that was that, right? And Saturday we were like chilling together for the day. And then she like dipped off, like probably like towards the evening. Probably like later afternoon, like maybe like 4 or 5 p.m. So, you know, I'm out here like on fucking cloud 9. I'm out here like, yo, I'm the fucking man. I'm out here. I got this baddie with me who I like, who's actually really like, I'm really into, and she's actually really into me as well. And so I thought like, oh, I'm gonna wife this up. Like, I'm gonna make this like my girl, right? That was the timing I was on. But Saturday night, right? She didn't really respond to any of my texts, and I could just tell like something was going on. Sunday evening, she hits me up, and she's like, basically like, I want to be friends. Like, I don't think we could do this. I don't think we should do this. Now I was just there holding frame. I'm like, fuck that. I'm like, I don't want to be friends. I want you to be mine. Period. You feel me? Like that was the timing I was on. You feel me? But it was very difficult because Andrea was not really available. You know what I mean? Especially not the capacity I wanted her to be, right? Like I wanted her to be my girl. But she felt like she didn't have that capacity. You see what I'm saying? And so we'd kind of like just been in this like very weird game of limbo throughout October. So this was like the first week of October that we were messing with each other, first or second week. And then basically throughout the rest of October and November, we kind of just like swap back and forth between like we're friends we're not really friends because we're doing slutty things together. We're friends, we're not really friends because we fucked in a dorm like study hall. So it was like kind of weird. Yeah. So should I tell you guys the story of the storm study hall, the storm room? Actually, I do. I kind of want to tell it now, just because I brought it up. Okay, so this was like after a month of us being in this like limbo period, right? And so we were basically at this like friends moment, this friends period for like a solid like week and a half, 2 weeks, and I was just like, all right, whatever. I'm just charged to the game. So Reem and Mehek, they were talking about like we had this group chat. It was me, Reem, Mehek, and Andre. We had this like group chat. We called it sexy sluts. That's what we called it. We called it sexy sluts. Right? So that was our little group chat, right? And the girls were talking about having a sleepover, right? And us coming there, right? Us being invited to the sleepover. And so I'm like, I mean, that sounds cool and all, but it's like, where am I gonna sleep? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, Reem and Mehek are gonna be together. It's like, if me and Andrea are friends, it's like, what's going on? Am I on the floor with it? It's like, I don't think I'm jacking that. I'd rather just go sleep in my dorm. You know what I mean? You feel me? It's like, I'll ball out with y'all and I'll like chill with y'all for the night, but I'll dip. You feel me? That was basically like the timing I was on. And so I'm in the group chat. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so the girls were obviously like playing around. They're like, oh yeah, you and Reem are gonna sleep together, blah, haha, and we're gonna sleep together, haha, right? And so I'm just like going in with the mentality of like, okay, I'll just come here and like I'll chill with them, but I'm gonna dip, right? And so we're chilling, and we're probably chilling for like a couple hours, right? And then Andrea's like, or they're talking about like being tired or whatever. So Andrea like goes into the other bunk, right? The other bed, right? And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I basically like went next to her, right? Because I was trying to get slutty with her, of course. Of course I'm gonna try things. I don't care if we're supposed to be friends. Like I want you. And she very well knew that, right? So I hop on the bed with her, and we started like talking a little bit, you know what I mean? And she was kind of like fucking with me a little bit, but she eventually like kind of like turned where like she basically like had her ass like on my fucking crotch, right? And so I'm like, okay, so this girl wants me, right? So we like slept together that night, and we like kissed and stuff like that. So after that I was like, okay, so I'm back in, I guess. Okay, cool, whatever. So that either the next day or a couple days after that, Andrea, Mehek, and then Gabby, right? They were talking about like having like a study sesh because they had this bio test, right? And so they're studying together at the study halls in Mehek's dorm, her like dorm building, right? And so it's probably like 11, 12 p.m. and Andrea hits me up because, oh no, we'd like, it was probably like 10 p.m. and we'd like smoked together then, and I went back to my dorm hall because I was fucking tired. I wanted to go to bed. And Andrea was texting me and she was like, I want you to come back. So like you can like chill with me, right? Like I want you to come and like be with me basically. And I wasn't going for it, bro, because I was fucking tired. I think at this point it was probably like 11:30, and I had to like make a decision quickly because I wasn't allowed to like basically be checked in as a guest to the other dorm room past like 12 p.m., right? And so I was kind of just like back and forth between like, oh my gosh, this girl's kind of blowing my shit, like like why am I even going there? It's not even like we're gonna do anything. I'm gonna be there like talking with her and her friends while they're studying. She's like, that sounds whack. You feel me? Now obviously with hindsight I'm very glad I went. So I went, right? So Mehek checks me in, I go up there, I'm chilling with them, I'm like chopping it up with them for a little bit. Probably like after like half an hour. And you know it's so crazy, right? If they wanted to study, right? It's a study session. But she is inviting me to come be with them when she knows I'm just gonna distract them. So it's like, obviously she didn't give a fuck about studying, you know what I mean? And so I'm basically there with them. After like 30 minutes, maybe an hour, Gabby dips off because she has to leave. Like she doesn't live on campus, so she was dipping off to go home. So it's just me, Mehek, and Andrea in there. We're chilling. We're just like whatever. Mehek and Andrea like ordered some food. They wanted to get some food, and then maybe like 20 minutes, 30 minutes after they ate, Mehek gets like a FaceTime call. Somebody rings her up. One of her homies rings her up, and so she leaves the room so she can like go to her dorm and like talk to her friend, right? And so it's just me and Andrea in there, right? And I think I was like sitting on a chair. I started looking at her. She's looking all good, right? And I told her, come sit on my lap, right? So she does it. And so we start kissing. We start making out. We start getting into it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like, she's like on top of me, bro, right? And I'm so fucking horny, bro. I swear to God, I just say like, I could fuck you right now, right? And she says, I could let you fuck me right now. So I'm like, you feel me? I'm like, oh shit, what, boy? So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I don't exactly remember like how I escalated it. Oh, I think she said turn off the lights. Yes, that's exactly what happened. She said turn off the lights. I was like, oh shit, she wants me. So I go to turn off the lights, right, and like lock the door, right? But bro, the door doesn't have a lock. So I'm like, we're like, oh shit, what the fuck? So like, some motherfuckers, I don't know. Actually, I don't know how many girls would be going for like still fucking with like no lock on the door. Honestly, some girls might go for that because they just really like the fucking risk. Honestly, respect to y'all. If that sounds like you, hit me up. But Andrea wasn't going for that, right? She was like, oh nah, if there's no lock, like I'm not messing with it, right? So I kid you not, bro. I got a chair and I literally propped that motherfucker under the door, right? And she was like, I was like, bro, look, like I literally tried to open it. It was like, it won't open, right? And she was just like, all right, say no more, right? So she was fucking with that. So we're lights off, chairs under the door, right? And I stand up, right? I pull my pants down, and I like grab her hair, right? And she starts sucking me off. So she's doing that for like a few minutes, right? And then I like tell her to stand up. I put her against the wall, pull her pants down, right? And I'm not gonna, I start fucking the shit out of her, bro. I was spraying her. Like we were like she was like, you know what I mean, like walls, like hands on the wall, and I was fucking just pounding that shit, bro. Like I can't lie, I was getting that shit. So we were doing that for a little bit. I don't remember. I don't think she rode me. Nah. I think we just like, yeah, it was just like a little quickie like that, just like from the back. And then nah, I swear this is like the funniest part. This is how when a girl really fucks with you, like she'll be like a slut for you, bro. Like, slut. So like I'm about to come, right? So I pull it out, and I already knew like Andrea was like a swallower, right? She wasn't a spitter, right? So I told her like get on her knees, right, so I can come in her mouth. And I do, right? And she's like, she swallows all that shit, bro. And I still I had like afterwards, I had like, you know, like that like little bit that like comes in out afterwards. And we were like standing up, right? And I was like, wait, there's a little bit left. And so I like grabbed her head. I told her to like get it. And she literally like licked that shit off of me. And she kind of looked at me with a little like, almost like pissy, like mad face. And it was mad funny. And I just took her and I just kissed her after that. Oh shit. Yo, I kid you not though. Oh man, I didn't even tell you. This was the best part of the story, bro. Fuck. So we're probably like 2 minutes in, two or 3 minutes in. Bro, I swear to God, someone tries to open a door. Like a rattle in the door comes and we're like, oh shit. So we were like frightened, right? And so we were like chilling for a little bit, but then I was like, nah, I'm not finished. And then we got back to it, right? And then that happened. That was L storytelling by me. I forgot about that. Damn, I haven't told that story in a minute. So anyways, you know what I mean? Me and this girl, we were having some fun. You know, we liked each other a lot. We got slutty. It was awesome. Cool, right? But this was like the end of November, and a week later, we basically went on to Thanksgiving break. And after that, it was a rapsies for me. I was cooked, right? I was permanently in friend zone, and I wasn't gonna get out. And that is when like super simp mode turned on for me, and that's when I feel like I really depolarized her like completely. I think it really happened. Oh shit, bro. Oh, wow. Okay. So, I think this is why she like fully lost traction to me. I'll say this. When I attracted Andrea, it was because I was like positioning myself as like the sexy, seductive guy, right, that she wanted to have fun with. And over time, I started like depolarizing myself because although I have this like appreciation for her, I was definitely more in like simp mode than just like lover boy mode, right? I felt like I needed her. I was super emotionally attached. It was really bad, right? And so I think the thing that like really broke the straw for me when it came to Andrea and like why she like basically cut me off. So over break, I basically decided, so like it wasn't Thanksgiving break, this was winter break. I don't know why I said we left for Thanksgiving break. So November, like I think it was like November 25th, that was like the last day of break. We had left and that we didn't come back until January 15th, right? So it was basically like that was holiday break, right? And so throughout that time, I was kind of like telling her, like we were having our group chat, right? Me, Reem, Mehek, and Andrea. And I was telling them that I wanted to stop smoking so I could like lock in because I was like depressed and I wanted to actually do something with my life. And they were like hyping me up type shit. And telling me like, oh yeah, you know, that's cool, Jaden, that's great for you, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like slipping back into my own, you know, patterns, and I wasn't even doing that for myself because I was just in an environment where I just wanted to like give in to escapism because I just hated being home, honestly. I just felt, I couldn't not feel depressed in my house. Honestly. And so I come back to school with the mentality of like, okay, I'm not gonna smoke, right? I'm gonna lock in. First day of class, right? Or the first day we come back, right? Andrea hits me up. She's like, yo, can we come through to smoke in your dorm, right? Because her, Gabby, Stacy, like they would always come through to my dorm like throughout like the winter time to smoke. Basically, we met in October, and most of that time we would just like chill like outside and smoke. But then it started getting colder, you know, in November, so like they would come through to my shit to smoke towards like, you know, the end of the first semester. So beginning second semester, like they, you know, Andrea hits me up. She's like, yo, can we pull up so we can smoke, right? And I wasn't smoking, but I was like, yeah, y'all can come through and like blow down here. That's cool. Bro, I kid you not, that day I smoked with them, right? Saying that now, like going back now with like my current awareness, I think that was the straw that broke for me. I think that was what did it. I think that was the final thing, because it basically showed her that I wasn't willing to like stand in my frame, and that I could break because she was like around me, and like her influence could like shake me, basically. You know what I mean? Because like if Andrea and her friends weren't there, like I wouldn't have smoked, but they were, and so I did. You see what I'm saying? And man, wow, this is so clear. Fuck. Wow. So I'll say this actually real quick because this is also a bit of context that kind of matters. So basically, when Andrea pulled up that day, her, you know, Stacy and Gabby, I went to give her a hug, and we'd always like had like full embraces, like, you know, even like after we stopped fucking with each other and we were just friends, because we still like had that connection and we still like really valued that intimacy. But she, like, I went to like give her that, and she kind of like gave me like some resistance, like a jerk motion almost, and like gave me like a side hug instead. And so that threw me off. I was like, that's weird. I don't know why. I was like, okay. But then also we were in my dorm, and she was like sitting on my bed, like her and her friends were like sitting on my bed, and she was saying something, and it was kind of like, I kind of like wanted to get in her face and like be annoying about it. And so I like got like super close to her, and she like pushed me off of her. And it wasn't like a playful like, get away from me. It was like, get out of my space. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, this is interesting. Right? And so I was like, what the fuck is going on here? 2 days later, right, January 17th, I'm in my dorm. I get a text from her, and it's like this like long paragraph. I don't remember what the rest of it said because it didn't matter. The main point was that she had a nigga. She had a boyfriend, or she had a man that she was fucking with that wasn't me, right? And so I was just like, oh, that makes sense. That explains the side hug and the push away, right? I'm like, okay, yep, makes sense. And so that basically sent me down a Very dark hole. Because I had known that like this girl liked me and was attracted to me and had genuine feelings for me, right? And had fucking lust for me. Like, I'd pounding the fuck out of her in a dorm study hall. Like, what are you talking about? You feel me? So it's like, I know that like she fucked with me. So what? She's just with this guy because I'm not good enough, obviously. It's just like, that's gotta be the reason. It's gotta be the reason. And one day I saw in her story, she'd like posted like a pic, and I think it was like, she was like in the car with him, right? And I think he had his hand on her lap. And I could tell it was like a sports car, and like, I could tell by like his hand that he was probably like kind of fucking jacked, right? Kind of like a bigger guy. And so I was just like, oh, okay, so she went for the bad boy. Fuck. And after that, bro, I was just like, oh, okay, so I'm not good enough. I suck. I'm trash. I'm nothing. Everything I believe about myself is true, that I'm a piece of shit. Well, might as well stop trying to do the things that I want to do for myself, like make shit happen for me in school, you know, stop smoking, stop blah, blah, blah. Give all that shit up. None of that shit matters. Let's just live in escapism for 6 months straight. Or 5 months, really. And so that was my life. I basically woke up, got high, jacked off, played a fuck ton of video games. You know, sometimes there were some girls here and there. You know, got drunk, whatever. Like, basically just escapism all day, right? Didn't do anything productive, didn't do anything, like, for personal development, nothing, right? Up until, like, May. In May, I discovered a Captain Sinbad video. I think it was about girls. And then I watched, like, a few more of his videos. And the one, How to Make the Greatest Comeback of Your Life, I say, like, that's the video that kind of got me on the self-improvement. Because after that, I was like, bro, I can actually do things to make myself better. I could do things to make myself more attractive. I can do things to make her want me. Right? And her wasn't necessarily Andrea, although I had a lot of revenge towards Andrea that drove me for a while. It was more like revenge on all of the girls. All of them. I like to say I dated the same girl for 5 years, but it was 15 different girls. And so, like, my mentality was like, I refuse to be the guy that they didn't want. You know what I mean? That was kind of like the unconscious driver behind those things. But at that time, I was in an environment where I felt like didn't serve me, and I didn't really know like what the fuck was going on. And so I knew I wanted to leave college because I wasn't even going to class. Like, I literally didn't even go to class. I probably went to class less than 20 times my entire year. That's fucking crazy. Okay, maybe not 20, but like no more than 30, 35. No more. No more. But I basically decided that I wanted to stop being a fucking bum and start doing something with my life. Start changing things, right? And so I left New Jersey. I decided to move to Georgia with my dad. I got into self-improvement. I basically just started getting obsessed with like watching content. I started watching a bunch of like mental health stuff from like Dr. K over at Healthy Gamer GG. Started watching Huberman. I started getting into a ton of business content from Hormozy. Both the Hormozys actually, Alex and Layla. And then Chris from First Man and Captain Sinbad, right? Those are like my 6 main people that I was like really fucking with, and that I was like reprogramming my brain with. And throughout that time, I was able to, you know, grow and learn, but I still carried so much hurt, so much pain, so much heartbreak, and just feeling this lack, this like sense of inadequacy, like that I'm just not good enough. That's why she didn't want me, because I'm not enough, right? And I still carried a lot of that. It wasn't up until early November, actually I think this was late October, I'd found an E-Man Gotchi video. And I'd never really watched E-Man, but I'd like seen him around, so I tapped in, and I think it was the title had something to do with heartbreak. And basically in that video, I had like E-Man had basically told his story of how like he had his first love when he was like 15 or 16 or something, and how it was super painful when they had to break up because she actually was like moving away. and how after that it was just so dark for him, and how it fueled, you know, like a crazy like season of just like self-mastery and just locking in, and how he basically was able to see that without that pain, without that heartbreak, he would have never got to the point of growth, of learning, of personal development, of mastery, of business success, right? And in that moment, it just immediately like kind of like came to my awareness. You know, where I was at in October was drastically different than where I was just 3 months ago, the end of July, when I was coming down to Georgia. And I was like, wow, man, like I've grown and I've learned and I've like been able to shift my perception and see these things. And, you know, I had like a 2-month stint of like doing push-ups every single day, and I got like a little bit of muscle from it, you know what I mean? That's actually where these stretch marks came from that stint. And so I'd like kind of like developed this new sense of identity that I'd been able to step into. And it basically just came to my awareness. I'm like, holy shit, without Andrea like basically sending me into the pits of hell throughout the first half of 2023, I wouldn't have been able to make this progress in the third quarter. I wouldn't have gotten to this place of like feeling so just fucking lost and hurt and pain and suffering. That is like, I feel like the only other option is to move because I can't go further down. You know what I mean? And I started climbing out of that hole, and I started seeing the light. And I recognized, because E-Man brought this to my awareness, I was like, holy shit, bro. I would have never been here without Andrea. If she didn't, you know, kind of like give me this catalyst of heartbreak, I wouldn't have been here improving myself right now. And that was the first step. That was the first immediate recognition. About a month later, I'd gotten into Hamza's content. I was getting obsessed with Hamza's content. I was binging all of his videos, and he'd recommended The Way of the Superior Man. And I'd gotten the audiobook. I'd listened to it back to back because it was so profound, so insightful. And that book was like the second step for me, like having this like huge shift in perception of like, holy shit, I can actually understand all of the reasons why I depolarized Andrea, right? Like I'd initially attracted her with this like confident, masculine, sexy, seductive, funny, arrogant even guy, right? And then over time, I started showing her these things of insecurity, of neediness, of pedestalization. And it's like, wait, hold up. That's not what I came in here. That's not the masculinity I was wanting. And so she left because I depolarized her. And although I couldn't articulate it like I can now, back then when I first listened to Way of the Superior Man, I had that clarity of recognition of like, oh, that's why she stopped fucking with me. I didn't have the purpose. I didn't have the drive. I didn't have the masculinity that she was really looking for. So she left. And it made sense because Andrea was a very feminine girl. She's a very feminine girl. And it's very clear now. But I attracted her, I pulled her in, and I even like kept her in that limbo phase with me. But eventually she recognized that I wasn't that guy, and then a guy who was that guy came in, and then it was a super wrap for me. You see what I'm saying? After Way of the Superior Man, I had this like second level of like insight, and that was huge. The end of 2023, I get to this point, it was so interesting. It was so cool. So like the end of 2022, I told you guys I'd had this like goal of like I didn't want to smoke. I actually created like a list of like 20-30 goals that I wanted to like complete in 2023. But after Andrea basically broke my heart, I was just like, well, I don't give a fuck about myself. I'm just going to give a fuck about escapism, right? And so I didn't actually, touch those goals. I didn't even remember that I had these goals until like the last week of December. I'm going through my notes like on my iPhone to like discard them, see if I have like any cool ideas for videos, stuff like that. And I see this goal, like 2023 goals list that I'd made, and literally I remember the last time I saw it or viewed it, I think was like January 2022 or January 2nd or like January 20-ish, like 2023, right? So it was like 11 months ago was the last time I viewed that note, right? Or I interacted with that note. And I look at that list, there's like 20-30 things in there. I kid you not, I think I completed like, I'd done like 70-80% of the things on that list. And I'm just like, holy shit, what the fuck? That's crazy. I had all these goals for myself last year that I wanted to achieve, right? And for the first 6 months of this year, I basically made like no progress towards those things because I was just completely lost, completely like just hating life, didn't want to do anything. And in basically like the last half of this year, especially the last like quarter of the year, I'd made so much progress and I'd done so many of those things, and I could recognize myself for those things. I could recognize the progress that I'd made in those stints, and it was just so beautiful. I was like, fuck, man, like this is fucking sick. Right? And I just felt so proud of myself, and I'm like, wow, man, that's beauty. That's amazing right there. A few days later, me and my family, we go to this church. It was a new church that we were trying out, and it's called Change Church with Dr. Darius Daniels. Now, although I'm not like a fundamentalist and I don't really tap into like Christian content or lectures like that, I still highly recommend Dr. Darius's content to anybody, because his shit is fucking sick. Dr. Darius has very, very good content, super good lectures. So we were at his church, right, in person, but he also like has YouTube. So if you want to like tap in, highly recommend. But we were in his church on New Year's Eve, right, 2023, and he was, you know, in the middle of talking, and he said this, which is what stuck out to me. And I like to say that this was like a big catalyst for like my spiritual journey. He'd said this line of like, if you were lost, if you got through this year and you didn't know how, like if you were at a point where you felt stuck, where you felt lost, where you felt like you didn't know how you were going to make it through, and you got through it, you got to the end of this year, it's because God got you through it. And when he said that, it was just this like sudden click in my mind, where it was like, oh shit, like no fucking duh. It was like, of course God got me through that heartache and that suffering. I definitely didn't. I literally had so many days where I talked to myself, and I just felt like I have no clue how I'm going to get through this. I have no clue how I'm going to overcome this heartbreak, how I'm going to overcome this pain. I have no clue how I'm going to understand this, how I'm going to make something out of this. There had been so many days where I just felt lost, completely clueless, like I had no idea of how I was going to overcome this hurt. And there I was, and I'd made progress, and I'd overcome the hurt, and I'd found more love and more acceptance of myself, and I was like, well, who else but God? Who else? Because it wasn't me, that's for sure. I did some stuff, but like I was just the vehicle, right? And that was, you know, big because it kind of like kick-started me wanting to explore my Christian roots, which kind of led to me exploring some Christian content, which eventually led to me doing a prayer, which was my first mystical experience. But that kind of led to some dissonance, because I was like, wait, hold up. If God is love, how can God also want to send you to hell? How can God also want to, you know, judge people and you know, like send them to eternal conscious torment? But God is also all forgiving and all merciful. Wait, hold up. How does this make sense? You know, so that was kind of hard for me. Eventually I got those answers, so I'm good now, but that was tough. But even from that, right, I'd got into March, where I first got introduced to non-duality, and then April, where I was introduced to my spiritual teacher, Aaron Apke, and then I just got obsessed with all things consciousness, metaphysics, mysticism, esotericism, all things spirituality. And that's basically just been my life for the last year. But since that journey, you know, I've learned so many things about reality, about the interplay of masculine and feminine. And especially I've learned about perception. I've learned about how your perception is your experience of reality. And over the last year, I've refined and I've articulated this concept of mental alchemy, of how to transmute a negative experience into a positive experience by shifting your perception. By shifting your perception, you shift your experience, because perception is experience. And so when we change our mentality, we change our physicality. And that's the core. Like that's what I want to get to you in this video. Right, I've been yapping for 45 minutes. Half of it was like about my story, and now we're starting to actually get into like the teachings, the lesson of this video. But at the core of this video is the understanding that you have to be able to return to a clearer perception, a more integrated perception, a more inclusive perception, a higher perception. a less limited perception. I've found over and over and over again that basically all suffering comes from being in too limited of a perception, too narrow of a perception. So at the end of 2024, December 30th, 2024, on my 21st birthday, I poured myself a shot and I literally toasted it to Andrea, because at the end of 2024, man, like, I can't even tell you guys, like, over the last 2 years, as I've been on self-improvement, personal development, my spiritual journey, I've grown so much, right? Like, I've been on my mental health journey, my inner work journey for 6 years, since I was a freshman in high school, 6 years. But these last 2 have been easily the most profound and transformative. And at the end of last year, on my 21st birthday, I just felt so grateful and I just had so much appreciation. And I just wanted to, I wanted to hold Andrea in our moments together and what she gave me and all of the reverence that it has and all of the beauty. 2 years ago, I couldn't perceive every moment I had with Andrea and everything I experienced with her as beautiful. I couldn't do it. I'd had a ton of beautiful moments with her. I told you guys about some of those. But all of the pain, all of the hurt, there was no way I could clearly perceive that as beautiful and say, oh yeah, of course. But me, as I speak to you right now, all I can do is say, I'm just so fucking grateful for that girl. I'm so grateful for all the beautiful moments we shared together. All of the beautiful moments of depth, of intimacy, of, sharing our physicality together, sharing our sexuality together, sharing our intellectuality together. All those beautiful moments where I just shared my presence with her and we got to experience each other. I can only be grateful for those because they're fucking amazing. I love all those beautiful moments. I love all those times. But I also hold all of the hurt and all of the heartbreak and all of the struggle in such high reverence as well, because holy fuck how they have taught me how to be a man. How they have taught me so much about myself, about my shadows, my struggles, my distortions, my traumas. How they've taught me so much about my relationship with women and what I want in women and what I don't want in women and how I want to interact with them and what I want from them. I've learned so much about life and love and fulfillment and what it means to just share in connection, Honestly, it's very interesting because I'm almost positive Andrea perceives me probably the exact opposite way. I genuinely believe I'm probably on Andrea's mistake zone. I think I'm on her mistake list. I think that's actually the case, which is tragic. Not because I didn't fuck her really good, because I know I did that, and she told me about it. But because I did that, but I broke frame. You know what I mean? That's how you get on the mistake zone, right? When you show her initially and you attract her with this one frame, the alpha, the cool guy, but then you break that and you're like, oh wait, this guy's actually a pussy. Which is that was the case. Right? So I feel like I'm on Andrea's mistake list, but I hold Andrea in such high reverence, honestly. Because I hold so much value for our sacred and beautiful moments, and I hold so much value for the struggles and the hard experiences that we had together, that we experienced together, and also the ones that I felt like I experienced by myself because of our relationship and our dynamic. I have so much gratitude, so much appreciation, literally nothing but love for all of our relationship, the entirety of it. That's my perception now. And I can fully hold that clearly and convictedly. But I couldn't do that 2 years ago. You know why? Because 2 years ago, I was too fucking close to the situation. When I was walking this morning, I was actually starting to write a newsletter about something different, but then this analogy kind of came up to me, and so I wrote it down and I wanted to use it in the context of this video. oftentimes, like, actually, let me give you the analogy, and then I'll relate it to heartbreak and overcoming, negative experiences. If I wanted to view the lines on my hand, right? Let me take these off real quick. If I wanted to view the lines on my hand, I can't see them if I have my fucking hand right up to my eye, right? If my eye is right up to my hand, like do this with me, okay? If you put your eye right up to your hand, like your hand right up to your eye rather, you can't see the lines on it. You're too close, right? You kind of just see like the, I don't know, like the black. You kind of see your skin, but it's just like vague and blurry, right? You don't have any clarity because it's too fucking close. It's too close. But what happens when you just move it just, like the 6 inches away? Now you have full clarity. You can actually perceive it clearly. You can actually see it for how it is. Now what happens if you have this, right? You want to see it clearly because seeing clearly is good, right? Clarity is wisdom. But you don't want to see it clearly. Since you can't see it clearly right now, it might like be too painful to try to perceive it clearly. You just like do this. You just like say, fuck you. Go away, get away from me. That is escapism. That is avoidance, right? Oftentimes we'll have these hard experiences. We have these things that we need to face, and they're like right up close to us. And in the moment, we can't like step back or see the clarity of it because we're just too close. And so if we can't step back consciously through like a tool, we'll often just turn to avoiding the situation, right? We'll say, nah, get out of here. I don't even want to perceive you clearly. I don't want to perceive you at all. And that's when we push things away. But pushing things away isn't how we heal them or how we bring things to a new clarity so we can feel good about them, so we can overcome them, so we can accept them, so we can release the things that we need to release. Instead of holding, I'll take these off here. Instead of having it right here or having it not in your vision at all, you need to hold it with integrity. You need to hold it close enough so you can see it clearly, right? But not too close so that you're misperceiving it, right? And I was basically thinking of this as the skill of detaching from yourself, right? It's like, this basically has a lot to do with body consciousness, or like, I have it written down here, what is it? Victim consciousness, where like reality is happening to you, right? Rather than observer consciousness or creator consciousness, where it's like, I'm seeing the things that is happening in reality and I can afflict change within that reality as well, right? Oftentimes, when we're too close to something and we don't want to face it, it's because it's too hard, it's too painful, right? And so since we're identified with that pain and we're not perceiving that pain for what it can be, which is a tool for showing us things in ourselves that we need to integrate, things that we need to learn, which can get us to learning, to growth, which is great because that's how we evolve, and that's what life is. Life is evolution. So when we avoid pain, right, because we're too identified with the body, then we often do this, right? Instead of like choosing to perceive things clearly, instead of choosing to accept things and face things for how they are, and then working from that, we'll just continue to avoid. Nope. Right? Now I get it. I've done that a lot, right? And I still do that at times. Right? I still struggle with that as well, right? But it's a constant practice. It's a constant bringing yourself to the awareness that, no, I am the observer. I am the one that observes reality. I am not the things like, I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. I am not my body. I am not my experiences. I am that which observes my thoughts. That's that which observes my emotions. That which observes my body and interacts and commands my body. I'm that which observes my experiences and interacts with my experiences. But I am not those things itself. When you're too close to the actual situation itself, it's very hard to like distance yourself from the situation to be able to see clearly what you need to see from that situation. More often than not, what we need to see from a negative experience is the lesson in it that is going to teach us something, right? Oftentimes, we have negative experiences because we're attracting things into our life that are reflections of things that we're like ignoring. And so they're like reflecting these things back to us that we need to face. And so if we're not choosing to face these things and we're avoiding, we're not going to be able to, grow and heal, whatever. And so we need to see these things. We need to recognize them for the lessons that they are. And then we need to be willing to do the work to integrate them. That is how we're going to grow. That's how we're going to be able to transmute. That's how we're going to be able to overcome heartbreak. Overcoming heartbreak isn't about not caring for the person anymore. It's not about dissociating from the person anymore, getting them as far away out of your mind as possible. No, it's about holding what that person was meant to do for you in full clarity. Saying, I recognize you, I appreciate you, I love you, thank you. That is how you heal. That's how you integrate. For me, like a year ago, although I made a lot of progress with overcoming, my like, kind of like hurt with Andrea, and kind of like still feeling like, not necessarily I had something to prove, but it just still felt like I there was still something I hadn't released there. And I felt like it was because I hadn't fully come to this like clarity that Andrea was truly supposed to guide me on. Actually, I think this is, I think I'm actually only recently getting to like a true release, because I only got to this realization like a couple weeks ago. Andrea was supposed to show me what my frame is supposed to look like. So a couple weeks ago, I realized that I attracted Andrea with kind of like the bad boy, like sexy fuckboy frame. And then I repelled her, I depolarized her because I was being a simp, right? And it was perfect. I think our experience, right? All the, beautiful, intimate moments we had together were because I was holding my player, my player, like the fuckboy aspects in sacredness, but also the lover aspects in sacredness as well. All the negative experiences came when I was basically holding the lover in shadow, which is the simp, right? So for me, I like to see kind of like there's like the player / fuckboy, and I see like, I don't think inherently being a player or a fuckboy is like bad. I think it's bad when you're a liar and you're a manipulator and you like intentionally hurt women, or you choose to hold things, like you choose to hold the truth from women to get what you want, and then you hurt them because of that, right? I think that if you're just honest and like open about your non-monogamy, and you have women that are like open with that as well and are cool with like doing that, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's my path, honestly. I don't really see myself as a monogamous guy, I'm not gonna lie. And so I think that there's like a ethical non-monogamy, and then there's like the, shadow. And I think that kind of like has to do with more like your masculinity, your frame, your seductiveness, your sexiness, your attractiveness. And then there's also kind of like the lover and with the simp shadow, right? Whereas the guy that like adores and appreciates and devotes and holds in reverence and is there for like emotional connection and intimacy and presence, right? But then there's like the guy who does that because he loves and appreciates the woman, and because she like gives to him, and he like loves and appreciates that relationship and he cares for that. There's also the guy who does that because he needs to have this woman, and without her he doesn't feel like he's shit. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, I felt like I was able to attract Andrea because I had like the sacred aspects of both like the fuckboy, like the player, and the lover. But then I depolarized her because I showed her these shadow aspects of the player. I mean, the shadow aspects of the lover, like the simp. And that was like, oh yeah, no, I don't want the simp. Right? And so it's like, yeah, respectfully, because women don't want simps. Simps are pussies. Women don't want pussies, bro. Women want strong men. Strong men don't have to be like jerks, right? Strong men can just be, like good men, right? But women are always going to go for like the jerk, right? The bad boy over the like the simp, because he's weak. He's a bitch. And women don't want bitches. Women want strong guys who are fun, right? And so it's like, if I position myself as like this like cool, masculine, fun guy, and then I show her I'm actually like this weak bitch, it's like, oh, well, obviously she's not going to be into me anymore because she came for this and then she got that. And then that's pretty fucking reasonable, right? If you buy Like, let's say you buy, like, you go on Amazon. You go on Amazon and you're gonna buy some fucking, I don't know, some Jello. You're gonna buy cherry Jello. I don't fucking know. You're buying some cherry Jello. You open that bitch up, and your Jello, it's packaged cherry, right? It says cherry on the packaging, but inside it's fucking green apple, right? It says cherry on the box, and even like the wrapper is cherry, right? You know what? Even the color is red, but then when you eat it, it tastes like green apple. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? I thought I got cherry. Why is this green apple? You were attracted, you got in, you initially invested because you thought you were getting something that you wanted. And then when you commit more, you're like, wait, what the fuck? This is not what I wanted. That's what happens when you attract people with a mask, and then they see who you really are. And for me, it wasn't even that I attracted her with a mask. The player in Fuckboy, that is who I was. I just also had these shadow tendencies that came out in the simp because I had these, all these insecurities and all these, limited beliefs, and I had so much lack and scarcity. I just didn't love myself. I didn't love myself back then. So I was like, yeah, of course. And so when those came to her, she was like, wait, I don't want that. Get away from me. Respectfully. And so, like, for me now, I can only hold that, all of those negative experiences as lessons of things that I should not do anymore, or things that I should definitely do, right? And so I have this complete perception of beauty over our relationship because I see the great times as great because they taught me, because we had, they were just beautiful times. And I see the ungreat times as great because they taught me great lessons. And so when you can perceive the good experiences and the bad experiences all as beautiful, that's when you'll be able to overcome the heartbreak. And here's the thing, bro. It's pretty hard to do that when you're just like immediately in it, especially if you don't have the skill of like distancing yourself from your thoughts and your emotions and being able to perceive things with more clarity, being able to perceive like the lessons, be able to extract those things. It's a skill, right? The more you practice mental alchemy, the better you'll get at it. If you want to get better at it, I made a 2.5-hour guide. It's called Mental Alchemy 101. It took me like 40 hours to write, and I made it into a course. So if you want to check it out, it's available for my Substack paid subscribers. You come join there, you get that course, you get my Block to Balance Creativity course. It's pretty fucking sauce. If you just want to join for 1 month, just, gobble up the course and then unsubscribe, you could totally do that. But come join the Substack paid subscription. That's how you get into access to mental alchemy. But bro, the more you practice mental alchemy, the easier it'll get and the better you'll get at it. But if you're not very good at it now, there's 2 great ways. One is like just the natural method of just time, because time inherently creates distance, right? Like if there's an experience in 2022, inherently I'm going to be further away from it in 2025 because it's literally 3 years in the past, right? There's so much mental distance, right? There's so much time space that's like in between that. So you're able to come at it with a different perspective, a different perception, a different angle, and you're able to perceive it more clearly, right? Because you have that distance now. So time is like the natural way this happens, right? They say time heals all things. It's because time naturally does this. Time naturally does this for us. Until eventually we can have clear perception. You see what I'm saying? And so there's time. Time is basically just like the natural way, right? Things just happen. But you can't control time. You can't like jump into the future, so things are better, unfortunately. What you can do is practice physically distancing yourself from your thoughts, or digitally distancing yourself from your thoughts, either one. What I mean by that is journaling. This can be physical journaling, audio journaling, or video journaling, right? So whether you're physically writing shit down, whether you're yapping into a voice recorder or into your voice memos on your phone, or you want to like, prop up your phone, make a video, whatever, literally just yapping about the things that are on your mind, about, the hard emotional experience, about the struggle that you're going through, about, the thing that's on your mind. And it's kind of like it's stuck in your head. Once you put some intention towards, I'm going to take this out of my head and put it into either the journal, the video, the audio, whatever, once you spark, that process through some intention by showing up for it, by showing up to do the writing, showing up to start talking, to start recording, it'll start kind of like pulling on like the plug almost. It's pretty interesting. Oftentimes, like, our mind kind of gets trapped in this like cycle, and we have this thing that we're trying to think about, or we're trying to like cook, we're trying to like break through this wall, we're trying to break through this barrier, but we can't. Oftentimes it takes showing up and like truly having some intention to break through that motherfucker to actually break through it. So like in times where for me, let's say I'm reading some like spiritual text, and I read a scripture, I read a line that's like, I kind of understand it, but I kind of don't. And so I'm like, I want to understand this better. Like, what do they mean by this? Like, what is the deeper resonance behind this, right? Like, how can I actually articulate this? I start getting into contemplation mode, right? Getting into contemplation mode is a way you do this. So there's like that ability of basically recognizing what you have, and then basically like distancing yourself from it, because it's recognizing what you have, but it's like if you're just doing it in your head and you don't really have much intention behind it, it might be difficult because there's no vehicle, right? It's almost like you're stuck in this like cycle of just like being in your head. But once the head isn't the medium, like once it's no longer your brain you're trying to do things in purely, and you're trying to do things on paper, or you're trying to do things into an audio recording so you can make something out of it, or onto a video, you see what I'm saying? It kind of like becomes a creation to like channel this fuel into, and so it stops being stuck in here and it kind of like goes into that medium, you see what I'm saying? And so it allows like that stuck or pent up energy that would just, be stuck in your head, and it channels it into something else, so you can put it there, and then eventually you can return to that thing and you'll be able to have that distance. So there have been tons of times where I've had journaling sessions where I've written something down, or like audio journaling sessions where I've said something, and I'll come back to it maybe 2 days later, a week later, and I'll be able to really step into the emotion I was feeling at the time, and I'll be able to recognize where I was at the time, and I'll be able to kind of like observe it with some neutrality. It's very difficult to observe your thoughts, especially like it's very hard to excuse me, what am I trying to say here? It's very hard to observe thoughts or emotions from a place of neutrality and just say like, hey, okay, I recognize this is happening. What does this mean, right? Not really associating like, oh, this is good, this is bad, but just like recognizing it for what it is. It's very difficult to do that in the moment when you haven't trained it, right? And so you practice that training, you practice kind of recognizing your own thoughts and your own beliefs neutrally, right? You practice doing that as a skill. Like neutrally recognizing your own thoughts, your own emotions, and how you think is a skill. And it's very hard to cultivate that skill in your mind. It's a lot easier to cultivate that when you channel what's in here and in here into another medium, like paper, or even if you're like writing in your notes, or if you're yapping to your camera, or to your voice memos, whatever. You channel it into that medium, and then you observe the creation rather than observing your thoughts in your mind actively, right? When you're trying to observe your thoughts in your head, you're kind of like thinking and you're trying to observe the thoughts. It's kind of hard if you don't have the skill. But when you do the thinking, you do the feeling already, and then you come back and observe, you're only observing. You see what I'm saying? And so it cultivates that skill. Life is all about being able to observe things from a place of neutrality, so you can perceive things clearly and perceive things how they should be perceived in order to take what that situation is supposed to give you, right? I like to say, like, I had this conversation with this girl in the gym last week. I was like trying to riz her up. I'm not gonna lie, I initially did, but I think I threw her off because I started like yapping about Christianity. She asked me questions, so I think I was probably yapping her about like 10 minutes about like the Christian, like my Christian beliefs. And I'm pretty sure like that turned her off because she was Christian. So I was like, I don't really give a fuck. But kind of like towards the end of that, she had told me, she was like, so life is learning. So life is about learning. And I was like, that's it. And I was like, learning and love, that's it. Life is about the pursuit of love and wisdom, period. Like that's genuinely my perception of reality. We should want to experience love in as many ways as possible. And often we need wisdom to experience love in as many ways as possible. We need wisdom to discern from what's love and what's not, from what's truth and what's not truth. We also need wisdom to choose the experiences that we desire over the ones we don't desire. You see what I'm saying? So wisdom gives us that discernment, that masculine component. Love is what we want. It's that experience that, you know, just makes us feel fucking awesome. Like, love is great. We want wisdom so we can experience love at a greater clarity. That's what it is. Fuck, that's money. Hold up. That's money, bro. We want wisdom so we can experience love at a greater clarity. I gotta write that down. What the fuck is my pen, bro? Fuck. Wait, hold up. Let me say it into here real quick, because this is money. We gather wisdom so we can experience love at a greater clarity. Okay, that's hot. That's hot, bro. Okay. So, the core of this video that I've been trying to get you, if you're in a heartbreak right now, it's basically impossible to kind of like perceive what that heartbreak is supposed to give you, because you're just too fucking close. The thing is, there's this other aspect of, you might not know yet what you need to know. Like, okay, here's the thing. For me, right, I have so much clarity and appreciation for the negative experiences that I had with Andrea, because those negative experiences have been able to teach me lessons. The thing is, I only know those negative experiences have been able to teach me lessons because I've learned other things that I've then been able to go back and connect with those previous experiences to come to this new level of clarity. You see what I'm saying? I think this was a quote from Steve Jobs, how things only, like, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, right? And so it's like, you can't see the connections when you're trying to move forward. You can only see the connections by looking back. And so it often takes, you know, like, let's say you're in an experience. This time where you're, you know, distancing yourself from the experience, this distance that we're creating, it's actually awareness, right? It's actually what we need to learn and what we need to be aware of in order to have the ability to transmute the situation. So let me give you a couple examples. So with me and Andrea, right? I first learned about like the masculine and feminine dynamics from The Way of the Superior Man. So after that book, I basically came to the conclusion of like, oh, okay, I depolarized Andrea because I had no masculine pursuit, right? I was making her my priority, and she basically saw me as like a pussy, which depolarized her, and she was no longer attracted to. So because of The Way of the Superior Man and because of its insights, I was able to go back and see with clarity why that situation played out like that. I was able to connect those dots. Another situation that's happened more recently is I've been super obsessed with learning about all things like dating, seduction, female nature, stuff like that. And like I told you guys earlier, I attracted Andrea, right, with this like playboy, this like fuckboy dynamic. And then I depolarized her because I was showing her these simp tendencies. You see what I'm saying? That is breaking frame, right? I had this frame that I attracted her with, and then I stepped out of that frame, and then I also showed her that she could break my frame. Remember when I told you guys about how I was telling her that I didn't want to smoke, but then she came over and I started smoking with her? Since, like, by me showing her that she could break my frame, I basically confirmed that I was a weak man. Women don't want weak men. Women want strong men. Because strong men are who they can surrender into. The thing about the feminine nature is that the feminine is inherently chaotic. Think of the feminine as an ocean. Beautiful, abundant, full of life, full of energy, full of chaos. All directions, and so no directions, right? The ocean moves in all ways, and so it moves in no way, right? There's no focus, there's no intention, there's no direction. And so the masculine is that structure, it is that frame, it's that, the way Superior Man likes to say, it's the canals and the boats that kind of like channel the ocean and allow you to like ride the boats, to use the energy of the feminine and channel it into something, to go somewhere, to create something new. You see what I'm saying? To gather a new experience. And so basically, when it comes to women, right, especially feminine women, right? When it comes to the feminine seeks the masculine. The all fucking crazy ocean seeks the firm frame, right? Like think of like the lighthouse in like the middle of the ocean that is just firm. Like that motherfucker cannot be shaken. He's fucking still. This is what women want. Women want to feel this because it allows them to experience some peace from the chaos that is their own femininity. You see what I'm saying? When she's able to surrender into your masculine frame, she can kind of like flow into like your structure almost. Like her water kind of like fills up your structure, and you can hold her and you can be still together. You see what I'm saying? The feminine wants to surrender into you. She wants to feel like she can be fully chaotic with you, that you can hold her fully. And so she's gonna test you, she's gonna poke at you, she's gonna throw you tests to make sure you can hold. And if you can't, if you break that frame, she's not gonna fuck with you no more because you can't hold her. It's like, well, this guy's weak. He's not strong enough to hold me, so why would I want to surrender into him? Why would I want to give myself to him? She wouldn't. Because you've shown yourself that you're weak. And so for me, I kind of attracted Andre with this like strong frame, and then I broke it. And then when I tried to come back to it for myself, I showed that she could break it. That was the straw. I feel like that broke the back for me. Because even in those times where like Andrea and I were kind of like bouncing back and forth between like friends and like being slutty, right? I'd had like some, simp tendencies slip through, but I was still holding that frame. And so she was still like attracted to me, and she was still like messing with me. But after that, like I feel like honestly, like now that I'm looking back on it, that day when I like smoked with her, I think that was the day. It was over. It was a wrap, bro. It was a wrap. Because I showed that she could change me. She could get under my skin. She could make me like shake. And if she could make me shake, then I can't handle her. Right? I'm not firm enough. I'm not strong enough to handle her. That's the reality. Thing is, I perceive that very clearly now. But without, the things I've been learning over the last like 2 months, I wouldn't have been able to perceive that. See what I'm saying? And so the clarity comes often with time, and especially with constantly learning about things that are surrounding those areas. You know what I mean? As I've learned about the masculine feminine dynamic and women and female nature, right? And seduction and dating and stuff like that, I've gained more and more and more clarity over my past experiences with women. As you learn about these things, as you grow your ability to actually distance yourself by intentionality, right, through the journalings, as you have more time, the experience, it will distance itself until you're able to perceive it clearly. I think the last thing I want to finish off with is that healing is a return to higher clarity, right? We start off, one of my favorite, I'll say this actually, one of my favorite teachings from the Gospel of Thomas is saying 22, where Jesus says, "These suckling infants resemble those who enter the Father's realm." And so his disciples, they look at him and they're like, does that mean we're going to enter the Father's realm as babies? And so Jesus says, he's like, when you merge the inner and the outer and the inner, when you align the upper with the lower, I think he said when you align the upper and the lower, the inner and the outer with the inner, when you merge the male and female together, so that male is no longer exclusively male and that female is no longer solely female, when you exchange an eye for an eye, a hand for a hand, and a foot for a foot, an image for an image, then you shall be in the Father's realm. Alright, so that was a lot of blabber. It's like, what the fuck is Jesus talking about, right? Jesus is talking about this oneness, this clarity of who we truly are. Jesus says when you align the upper and the lower, the upper, the higher realms, the spirit, and the lower realms, the material, right? The immaterial and the material, the spirit and the matter, right? When you align the inner with the outer, when you merge the inner and the outer, the inner world, the outer world, right? Mind and reality. See what I'm saying? When you bring male and female together, right? The masculine and feminine, heart, mind, intention, desire. When you exchange an eye for an eye, image for an image, foot for a foot, hand for a hand, whatever. That's kind of like the giving and receiving, right? The oneness, the karma. What you give is what you receive. What you put out is what you get back. Jesus is pointing at all of these manifestations of oneness, of union. When you return to that union, then you'll be in the Father's realm. So Jesus is saying that these babies resemble those who enter the Father's realm because babies are inherently in that state of oneness. And then throughout, as we develop, we start learning these dualistic and separate beliefs, right? Enlightenment is like that return to second innocence. It's that return to innocence. A Course in Miracles says, innocence is wisdom because it does not know evil, and evil does not exist. Right? So it's kind of like getting at this like ontological principle that inherently the evil, the darkness, it is a absence of the light, of love. It's not the presence of a second power, it's the distortion of the one power, of God. And so, if we recognize that truly evil and darkness, although experienced in our physical reality, and although it does things in our physical reality, it's not the highest truth, and we can transcend it by holding it, by accepting it, and by rising above it, we can actually return to a greater wisdom. Innocence is wisdom. And so, having that second innocence, having that clarity after you have that cloudy vision, right? We start with clarity, and then things get cloudy. When we return to that second clarity, that's healing, right? We have this clarity, this wholeness, and then things get cloudy or distorted. Parts of ourselves get taken away, right? Our parents tell us, oh no, you can't be like this. The school system tells us, oh no, you can't do this, you can't be that. Religious figures tell us, oh, you got to be this way or God's going to send you to hell. Right? And so we deny parts of ourselves. And false selves parts start coming in to fill those parts. We have parts of ourselves that we want to keep, but we deny. And so, those parts of ourselves that we're trying to, distance from us actually are still manifesting in shadow ways, right? And so those are like the cloudy aspects. So now we used to have imagine like a clear disc. You're like a clear disc. Imagine this disc is like split up into like slices of pie, right? And so some of these parts, right, some of these slices are like discarded. And the parts that are discarded are replaced with like black parts. Those are the false self. Those are parts that aren't even you. Now the parts that were discarded, they're still here, right? They're just kind of like on the ground and they're kind of like cloudy now. They're kind of dirty because like the dirt and the dust is on them. But they're still manifesting in ways that are shadows, right? You don't even know they're there because you're not aware of them because they're not in your current paradigm, because your current paradigm is the clear parts of yourself that you do identify with and the false self parts that you identify with. And then you have this unawareness of these shadow qualities that are coming out that are actually you, but you're denying, and so they're coming out in unhealthy and unconscious ways. What we need to do is recognize the false parts of ourselves, burn those motherfuckers away, and then see our cloudy parts, clean them up, wash them off, recognize them, and then bring them back into ourselves. We need to integrate them. So we need to see ourselves, right? Hold ourselves. Stop doing this. Do this. See the false parts of yourself. Like, ask yourself, what is the nature and the usefulness of this belief, right? If you have a belief, a limited belief, and you ask yourself, what is the nature and the usefulness of this belief, you'll probably find that belief should get the fuck out of here because it's not yours and it probably doesn't serve you. Now, if it's yours and it serves you, okay, it can stay. If it's not yours and it doesn't serve you, it was like, what are you talking about? Or no, if it's not yours and it serves you, okay, it can stay. If it's not yours and it doesn't serve you, it shouldn't stay. If it's yours and it doesn't serve you, it shouldn't stay. You see what I'm saying? So, one, question the usefulness of your beliefs, but even if you do think they're useful, question the nature of them. Ask yourself, is this something I actually desire, or has this been imposed upon me by the programmers? We want to be able to recognize the parts of ourselves that have been imposed upon us by the programmers. We want to say, fuck that, get up out of here. We want to look for the parts of ourselves that are, coming out in ways that are unhealthy, unconscious. Recognize those parts of ourselves and say, what is this shadow pointing to? Because underlying all shadow desires is a sacred desire. What's good, buddy? Nah, I'm just recording the video. I'm Jaden. I go by JC Dubs. JC Dubs.
JC Dubs, what do you do?
I mainly talk about personal development, like a spirituality angle.
That's on YouTube?
Yeah.
JC Dubs?
Yeah.
JC?
Yes, the lowercase JC, all caps DUBSS.
Alright, I got you.
Say no more, G. Appreciate you, go. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to recognize those parts of ourselves that are induced upon us by the programmers, right? The false selves. And we want to say, fuck that, get out of here. And then we want to recognize kind of like the parts that we like threw on the ground. And we're like, no, wait, come back, babe. I want to clean you off. I want to hold you. I want to love you. I want you to be here. And then you integrate those parts of yourselves that you've been denying. That's healing. It's that returning to clarity. It's recognizing, it's having discernment of one, the parts of yourselves that aren't you, and shedding those parts away. And it's two, recognizing the parts of yourselves that aren't being held sacredly, and then holding them sacredly. It's having that clarity of desire, of intention, of identity. And then moving from that clarity as well. That's healing. And you heal via this distance, right? Because it's not possible to do this and heal. It's not possible to do this. It's got to be here. If it's over here, you're probably too far away, right? So you might have to get a little closer. That's how you do it, baby. When it comes to anything, now this video was, about heartbreak because that story was basically a big catalyst in my life, and it was just a good story. I want to tell it. But this is how you overcome all things in life, right? All negative experiences can be transformed if you shift perception. But the thing is, that shifting of perception often takes time, and it takes the awareness of knowing how to hold that experience in a new light, right? Like a year ago, I couldn't have this full clarity. I had some clarity, but I didn't have the full clarity. 2 years ago, I had no clarity. A year ago, I had some, and now I have even more. Shit, in another 2 years, I'll probably have even more clarity about the situation. Like the exact same scenario will probably still be teaching me more and more lessons. It's pretty crazy. That's what it's about. So just do a little recap. When it comes to overcoming that heartbreak, it's all about having that clear perception of what the beautiful experiences are, and of what the good experiences are, the positive experiences, and of what the negative experiences are. Because if you can have a clear perception and you can hold them all as beautiful, because all things are either for love or for wisdom, if you can hold that and you can recognize that, convictedly, genuinely recognize that, that's how you'll be able to heal from the heartbreak. Now the thing is, bro, it's probably going to take time for you to get there, and that's okay. But I can guarantee you that if you do the work, you're going to get there. And if you're an hour and a half into this video, I know you're the kind of person who's going to do the work to get there. So respect. For real, bro. Because most people aren't doing the work. So yeah, guys. Yep, I'm going to call it there. If you found this video valuable and you want to talk to me personally about your own situation and get some help, you could book a paid guidance call with me. I offer 30 and 60 minutes. So yeah, it's in the description. I also have a newsletter and audio podcast that I send out. So if you like written or audio insights as well, it's happening there. That's the Digital Renaissance Creator Substack. Yeah. We're lit. I'll do a quick intro if you just don't know who I am. My name is Jaden. I'm a mystic, I'm a philosopher, I'm a polymath. I'm many things, and I don't like to put too many titles on because it gets too long. Anyways. My mission is to help people live their most free and authentic lives by helping them understand who they truly are and express who they truly are. And that's why I'm so obsessed with all things spirituality, mental health, self-mastery, also creating personal development, personal branding, business, stuff like that. I basically talk about all things life, expression, and being a human because that's what I love. So if that mission resonates with you, if you like personal development, spirituality, self-improvement with a more spirituality angle, come along for the ride. Yeah. All right, I'm out. Do it today. Be better for it tomorrow. Stay devoted, stay inspired, baby. That's out.